Good. So, again, warm welcome to this members roundtable. This is on the new code. It's the second one that we've run. I'm Fiona Taylor from the National Code Support Office, and Tamsin Lester is my colleague. So we're sort of running the session today. Tamsin's going to monitor any chat, which I'd encourage you to use. We have got a bit of an agenda for the session, but my sort of aspiration is to get through the slides fairly quickly so that we've got a good opportunity to have discussions with each other and for you to ask questions of us, and so on. So this is what we're going to be covering initially, the first part of the session, around the new code. We're very, very aware that it's a big change, and there will be an impact of change for you and your organisation. So we want to ensure that we support that as well as we can, and have dialogue with you as members about what you need from us in terms of support, and how we can make it as pain-free as possible. So looking then, we'll look at some of these areas in a bit more detail. So why the new code? We're going to look at the code journey, a bit of in-depth on the changes, some practical things that you'll be very interested in terms of your operations of the code compliance in your university. So the annual self-audit, and the checklist for auditors, underpinning documents that we're producing, what's going to happen next, who we are, and then hopefully if that's gone through fairly quickly, we'll have that question session at the end. If you want to add any questions during the slides, please do. Don't be afraid to do that. Use the chat tool in Teams, and Tamsin and I will try and answer them as we go along, but if not, we'll pick them up at the end. So really happy for you to do that. When we've gone through the slides, we'll also open it up to people to put the hand up and speak if that's your way of doing things. So why the changes? So the last code was published in May 2019, and the decision to review it is to allow us to update the new code to reflect new code functions and guidance, legislation, and also best practice. The aim of the updating the code was to make it much more functional for new staff, and we've reviewed the annexes that are part of the current code as part of that work. So we've removed duplication, aimed to make it a much more readable and accessible document, and provided clarity. So where some things did say should, they now say must, to give that. The process kicked off in November 22 with a workshop at the Joint Codes Conference. There was a long consultation period of which members were part of, so thank you to those who contributed to that. A year ago, we had a draft code document, and that's been scrutinised by our legal team. We shared that in November 24, so you will all have, members will have had a copy of that. It's actually on a flipping book, so you can view it online. And we're currently in the position of going through the parliamentary approval process. Our launch date, as some of you may know, is the 1st of May. So we're just in communication with government to make sure that goes through, ready for that deadline. So the changes then, this is sort of a bit of a overarching changes, and I'll look in a bit more detail about what that means in terms of code practice. So we've now got 14 sections, and a larger number of points that you need to be compliant on, and that's changed from previously there was 8 sections and 4 annexes, but we've combined it all together to make it a much more accessible document. And the key areas are code administration, health and wellbeing, equality and diversity, occupant satisfaction, sustainability, and late buildings and accommodation guarantees. So in terms of the administration, there's clarity over membership. We've strengthened the expectations around compliance. There is a new student complaints process, and sort of guidance on penalties for non-compliance. Health and wellbeing, there's been significant changes nationally around the expectations for health and wellbeing for students. And if you were lucky enough to come to Jenny and Paul's session at the conference a couple of weeks ago, they talked about this new competency framework for mental health. So in essence, the changes are trying to reflect changes more widely. So it's an enhanced section. There's whereas previously there was much more focus on the provision of information. We've now
Hi Adam, how you doing?
Expectations on
not too bad. And
policies and
I've been meant
procedures.
to ring me back. I know you left me a voicemail, didn't you?
I think someone's got their mic off. I don't know if you can.
I've sorted it.
Thank you.
Okay.
And there's pointers for appropriate training for staff now within the new code around equality and diversity, strengthened from the previous version, mostly reflecting legal requirements. And the essence of this is to ensure that there's no group or person is treated less favourably, as emphasis on the use of equality impact assessments, and that staff training piece, making sure that members of staff with code responsibilities have got the relevant training, and a focus on students with disabilities across the code. Occupant satisfaction wasn't a previous requirement of the current code, so there was no requirement to run surveys. So this is new, and the compliance is around doing something on at least an annual basis. So there's quite a lot of detailed information about how you might do that in your organisation. Late buildings and accommodation guarantees has been developed since the current code, and it will be part of the audit requirements, so there is compliance in there, and essentially it's really protecting students from problems where accommodation isn't ready and so on, so a lot more guidance around that. So annual self-assessment has always been an option for members. We're now deeming that as being a mandatory requirement, and the idea behind that is to support your triennial audits so that you're not rocking up on year 3 and having to do lots of work around how you achieved compliance throughout those previous 3 years. So it's a mandatory requirement. We have got an online option to do the self-assessment in the new system, although we're not prescribing that. Some people have already got very good systems for doing self-audit, and you can continue to use those. As I say, there's no submission deadline for this. We won't be chasing you up, but it is an expectation that will be done on an annual basis. The updated auditor checklist is an extremely important tool to help you as members identify what evidence you need to meet compliance. This has been available already, and it's been, I think it was currently it is called an auditor's checklist, which suggests it's just for auditors, but actually this is a tool that all members will have access to and be able to look up and see how do you provide evidence for compliance on ... So that's a tool to help with the annual self-audit as well as the triennial audit. I've put here on the slide that we'll be deploying this online in phase 2 of the new code management system, but actually it is available already. So it's an option for you to use. The underpinning documents that support the code have been reviewed. And I'll not go through them separately, but you can see on the left-hand column, these have all been updated or will be updated by the 1st of May, and they'll be available on the website for you to access. And we are planning future additional support documents, which we'll be working on throughout the year. So next steps then, mention that the go live is the 1st of May. We're waiting for that sign off. We have a communications plan started, which is going to allow us to make sure we communicate with you in a timely way about what's happening when, anything specific for your particular institution, particularly around audits, because we will have audits being submitted now on the old code or the current code, and then institutions with audits due next year, it will be using the new code. So look out for information, it will be coming. There's also us, so me and Tamsin and Trudy. Trudy's not here at the moment. We're around to support you. You can email us at our info@acop email address. No question or query is too daft, so really encourage you to make use of our team. That's what we're here for. And I think I've gone through that in a fairly fast pace. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and open up to questions. As I say, if you want to put your hand up and speak, you can do, or you can use the chat tool. And I mentioned earlier that we've got members in this group who are very experienced in audits and very knowledgeable about the code and compliance. So, you know, we're encourage you to speak up as well if you can answer questions.
Thanks, Fiona.
Hey, Lydia.
Hi. Thanks for this. I'm interested in the auditor checklist, which you said is available on the new management system. I might have missed something, but one of my colleagues is like has joined the group, you know, for testing and whatnot, so he's got access to it. But I can't join it yet because it doesn't give you the option to create an account. Is there a different link that I need to use, or has it been distributed so everyone can join it to see the checklist, or have I missed something?
Yes, you should. What's your organisation, Lydia? What
De Montfort
Yeah.
University.
Oh yes, yeah. So we've got Paul, Patrick, yeah.
Yeah.
You should be able to register on the ACOP website.
Okay.
But if you're already
not
a
the
member
management system, is it? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, no. Are you
think
talking about the management system?
Yeah, because I was wondering where where I would see the checklist. I think you said it was on the management system. Is that right? Have I understood that, or is it on the website?
The self-assessment. It's sorry, that does sound confusing actually. Now that you've asked that question, yeah. The new management system will have all of the artifacts, so it'll have the code and it'll have the auditor checklist and so on. But at the moment, you can get those things from the website. But
Okay.
They're really for the current code.
Oh, okay. So the new checklist for the new code is not available yet.
That's right. But we're sort of intending to, once we've got that completely ready, we'll share that before May.
Sure.
Because I think it can help to sort of reassure people about how they're going to meet the requirement.
Yeah, absolutely, because we've got our audit next April, so that's why I'm kind of keen to have a look, and then I can brief members across the university about what we're doing. So
yeah, and it makes sense in your case that you might want to consider doing the self audit now for the new code, but not until you get that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lydia.
Louise. Hi, Louise.
Hiya.
Hiya.
Where it's so in the new the new code, so where it talks about keeping records for a period of a certain amount of time, how, as we go into a new code, I'm assuming, so for example, in the marketing accommodation one, it says any web updates need to be kept for a period of 6 years. Now, we wouldn't have that now. Would that be detrimental, or is that just like moving forward, you need to have the records of 6 years?
To be
Yeah.
compliant now, you just follow what it says in the current
Right,
code.
okay, so
Yeah.
moving forward, we need to make sure we've got records being kept of everything.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you, that helps.
Thanks, Louise.
Be interesting to hear if, oh, sorry, go on, Jane. Let's hear from Jane. You're on mute.
Jane, you're on mute.
Jane.
Right, because it's Teams and Zoom get me confused. So we're one of those universities that don't potentially do a full student survey currently. We do mini pulse surveys.
Yeah.
We've been brought to our attention that on the surveys piece we need to do a survey. Is there anything there that would identify how big a survey is at all students, or would our pulse surveys of arrivals end just to certain groups be still sufficient, or are we expecting a whole university-wide survey?
Good question, that, and I'm not sure it specifies, does it, Tamsin? Because you are right in asking the question about the full surveys, because if universities are doing that, you can use that as your evidence. So we probably need to check on pulse surveys. So they're sort of more around checking for certain, if you've had certain changes, you want to check what people think about that, get feedback from them.
Yeah, as an institution, the university feels that there's so many surveys that happen anyway, with the National Student Survey, etc.
Yes.
And therefore, they currently would be reluctant to survey all 7,500 students that are in accommodation. But we do small mini surveys, maybe on Res Life, or maybe on arrivals, or maybe on departure. But we wouldn't be necessarily doing a whole mass survey to all students.
Yeah.
Maybe focus groups and stuff. And I just thought that when I read it a few weeks back, it felt a bit vague, and I didn't know if it's intentional or what would an auditor be looking for. I think it's just a clarity.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we might come back to you with that one, Tamsin. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's specifying the numbers, but let's find some information out and we can share that. I think it's a good question that everybody wants to know. I'll take it away, Jane, and let members know.
Jane,
We're not against doing it. It's just, yeah.
No, quite. It's York, I think.
Yeah,
isn't it?
it is a good question. That will be asked, I think, quite widely with this, because it is a new requirement. What's your name and your last name and institution, Jane?
I've got it, Fiona. It's okay.
Oh, you have you? Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry, because you've got the bookings, haven't you? Beg your pardon.
Thanks, Jane.
Thank you.
It'd be good to hear from anybody who's experienced at using self-assessments as well annually, because there's a lot of institutions that have been doing it, although it's not been mandatory, and it might help some of your peers to map a way forward with that. I think some people are quite anxious about it. We'll come back to that. Hi, Pippa.
Take myself off mute. Hi, thanks for this, Fiona. It's really interesting. I just wanted to check about the complaints, because I look after customer services at Warwick, and you've talked about complaints being part of the audit now. Is there a specific complaints procedure that you're putting in place that we've got to match, or does our existing complaints process, do we just have to evidence it and how we record the results and everything? Just wondered what that actually meant.
Tamsin, do you want to say that one?
Yeah, so in relation, I'm sorry, I got a bit distracted then. I was just reading Naz's question in the chat. I think you're asking about student complaints and the submissions, is that right?
No, so you do the submissions anyway, but
Yes.
it actually said complaints process on there.
Okay.
The slide that we just saw. What does that look like? Have we got to evidence what our process is, or are you telling us what our process should be?
Okay, so no, your process is determined in each individual institution because obviously some are very large, some are very small. Consequently, the way you handle complaints are different. Previously, we'd alluded to the fact, or the code had alluded to the fact that where a complaint had been escalated outside the accommodation team, it became reportable. What it now it splits complaints now into stages: stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. And it says anything that's been escalated or is sitting at stage 2 or stage 3 must be reported, because it was apparent that in some institutions something could be escalated outside of the accommodation team because there was literally, they were so small, there was sort of one person in the accommodation team, but it hadn't necessarily gone to stage 2, if that made sense. It was still part of that initial reporting process. So we're looking at stage 1 being where it's initially received, stage 2 when the first effort, if you like, of the institution's process have failed. It goes to stage 2, and that's when it becomes reportable. So it's just that slight change of terminology. Hopefully that covers it.
That's great. Yeah, that feels like it won't change for us. So
it probably
days.
won't for
Thank
most
you.
people. Yeah,
Great.
no problem.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pippa. And actually, just as an aside, we've had a lot of questions about the complaints process, so it's good to hear more, get that clarification. Just to pick up on Tamsin's last comment, is anyone here, has anyone here done a self-assessment recently and would like to share their experience of that, or raise any points about how that worked for you? Be really keen to hear.
I know a lot of the Oxford's colleges do it. I'll just say a little bit about it, because I see Naz has asked, and I think it's what's bothering quite a lot of people is, although it's not a submission requirement, so there's not a deadline where you need to submit to the code your annual self-assessment, it needs to be done. And at your triennial audit, your auditor, in order to sign you off as compliant, needs to see records of your annual self-assessments. So the method that you do, A, carry it out, and B, record it, is completely up to you. That's not dictated by the code, but you must be able to provide the evidence. We, as the code team, are suggesting that you go through the same full auditor checklist, which covers each point of the code, because frankly, why wouldn't you? And it's so easy then. You've got the audit trail, you'll be picking up any issues really early, and you'll have evidence ready for your triennial that you're on it. So you can even just do peer assessments if you work with another institution's accommodation team closely, do it together. There's absolutely no sort of rules, rhyme and reason from us. You just need to find your own way, but it must be presented, else you'll stumble at your triennial audit. And regarding the online self-assessment tool, etc., Andrew has asked in the chat, they're not going to go onto the current portal, code management portal, because they reflect or refer to the new code, which will all be onto the new code management portal. So you won't see them come on the existing one. But from the 1st of May, once you're all onto the new code management system, that's when you'll see those documents there. We'll be offering more training in the meantime to try and help with that. So I don't know if that allays any fears or queries with the self-assessments, but please share if you've got experiences.
Ju, I know you've put your hand down now. Oh, she's put it back again.
Yeah,
You're on mute.
Tamsin did answer my question. At Teesside for many years, we've actually just, as Tamsin just said, just done the audit every year, and every 3rd year we've submitted it, which is what you've just said, really. I think that has worked well for the reasons you outlined, is we just follow the process through and we're picking things up in that formal manner, so there's full evidence all the way through. And that was instructed by our Chief Operating Officer about 8-9 years ago, that we did it in that manner, and it's worked well for us.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah, great to hear. It seems to be the obvious for me, because obviously you're covering all bases then, aren't you? And identifying stuff. That's really great to hear, Jill. Thank you.
The auditors also can't say we did it wrong, because they were the auditors that did the self-assessment as well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Always
Like
good
that.
to have someone else to fall back on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that.
So that, and can I just ask for my own information? So you had an internal audit team that helped you with that, did you?
We employ an outside company to do an internal audit.
Okay.
So we have a PwC who
Yeah.
won the tender. So they do the internal audit on our behalf.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think a lot do it themselves, the self-assessments. But
It's about
interesting.
size of teams.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. And it varies such a lot with code members. We've got some tiny institutions and some really big ones. So
Yeah.
one size doesn't fit all. Brilliant, thanks.
Anyone else doing self-assessments within their team who'd be up for sharing their experience of that? So not using an external auditor company.
No. For those of you who've still got team members who've not managed to attend one of these roundtables, I'm hoping to get the recording shared amongst you, or if not, accessible from the new ACOP website. So you'll be able to share it with your wider teams. Potentially you've got people like estates and maintenance teams who perhaps need a bit of an input. So hopefully we'll get this as a resource on the website for you really quite soon. So spread the word, please, because this is coming. Can't hide from it forever. Brilliant.
Tamsin and I are probably going to hang around for 5 minutes or so. If anyone has got any more burning questions they want to put in a chat or speak now, do go ahead. But if you want to wait a little bit, for those of you that want to speak individually, we will hang around. If there aren't any more questions, do feel free to go. Thanks, Naz.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Louise, are you hanging around? Because I've just seen your question.
Yeah, I can do. Yeah, I'm a dream at being late to meetings, so no one's going to be surprised if I'm not.
Well, you've actually got half an hour to
Yeah.
you can go and get your cup of tea. Yeah, I mean, we have. I think it would be great if people could share, but
Yeah,
people are
'cause that's
obviously
kind of
in a
'cause
hurry, aren't they?
I've read through the flippy one that you sent through, which is great. And obviously there's a lot more to it now. And from my point of view, I sit in the marketing comms complaints feedback events. That's my remit. So there's a lot that's going to come under me to make sure that we're compliant with. But I guess I really like the person on the team said they're doing it annually just because it's a good practice. But I guess are we really interested in other members of like how they're doing it? Are they putting it all into a spreadsheet and doing a big shared doc and getting everyone to sort of feed into it? So we've got a mixture in our team and a wider team. Some people are really good on spreadsheets and evidence and stuff, and other people I can just picture it already. It's going to be sort of like scrappy bits of emails coming in left, right, and centre with no sort of clear. So I just wonder whether you see anything that's been done that's worked particularly well.
Yeah, well, we've had sort of anecdotal feedback from when we've had the roundtable before, where I can't remember what institution it was, but they were using SharePoint, and they developed that because they wanted to be able to assign tasks to people outside of their accommodation team. So I know that's happening, and definitely with spreadsheets. You know, again, it having the spreadsheet means that you've got that ability to pull people in that maybe sit in the security team or, you know, maintenance and so on, to contribute, even if they don't necessarily update your spreadsheet or your SharePoint site.
Yeah.
At least you've got that link to them. I don't know.
And I guess it's almost I guess it's almost like
Louise.
allocated. So I guess in my head, I'm sort of going, okay, well, we need to make sure we're allocating and saying, you know, this is your responsibility. And I guess somebody will oversee it, fine. But I guess because there's so many components to it, we really need to make sure that the people who look after each bit are really clear that these points are part of your remit now to make sure that we're compliant on. So yeah, I guess that was my question.
Yeah, and I mean, with the new system, you can add one of the benefits of the new system is that you'll have a super user within your organisation.
Yep.
So who's the main code contact, and you can add any user. So you could add members of staff from other teams, other departments, but make them inactive so that they don't get emails, they can't log in.
Yeah.
But again, it's I suppose it's really a similar model to the SharePoint, where you can assign activities, tasks, specific tasks to other people in the organisation.
Yeah, we use Google Docs for it, and what we also do, Louise, is we try and do, and this was from an audit years ago, we try and do a 6-monthly kind of UK code meeting, so you get all the relevant people around the table. So you actually, because the problem with a lot of it is time management, you ask them to do it and then 3 weeks later they still haven't submitted it because they don't see the necessity. So it's also just getting that wider message across. I think with the launch of it, that's even more important, that maybe security don't see important to risk assessment, but it's those kind of things that you catch yourself out with. So stuff we do, which is really easy on websites of contracts and how to apply, I use the word loosely, are quite easy tick boxes. It's your stuff when you really detail into maintenance, security, and people that are supplying the service for the students but don't necessarily see them part of the code.
Yeah, that's my thought process as well.
I can imagine as well trying to align your deadlines with with other or parts of the university's processes. And you've got to try and work together, haven't you? If they've got a process that provides reports at a certain time of the year and you need them at a different time, it's having that discussion about how you can make that work so that you're demonstrating that compliance.
We have been trying from a code perspective to communicate the message across the universities, right from Vice Chancellor down, that the code is an accountability for the whole institution, not the accommodation lead or, you know, the teams on the ground. And chair of the governance board, etc., is writing or has written and will do again to all the VCs and the audit committees, etc. So we're trying everything from our side, but I think anything you can do in-house as well to spread that word that this is everybody, that's what we need to try and achieve here. We had quite a lot of success on our recent conference. We had a lot of people attending that for the first time ever from other departments, which was really encouraging, particularly estates and security. So I think we're getting there. It's been a slow turnaround, but we're going in the right direction. But again, any suggestions from members like yourselves that would help, we'll welcome, definitely.
Pippa.
Hi, Pippa.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, Louise, I feel your pain, and I think we felt that pain for an awfully long time. But it does feel like we've got people on board now. No, I'm not the super person, what did you call them? The super user.
Yeah. Oh,
I want
aren't
to
you?
be a super user. I want like a little uniform and a cloak. That'd be great. If I throw our super user into the mix, she's actually on holiday, but if I maybe get Diane's permission to do an introduction to you by email, the way that she pulls all of our information together is just unbelievable. She's so organised, and she's done a lot of hard work to get the buy-in of the estates and the community safety team. So I'll try and link you two together if I may, because
That'd be great. Really helpful.
Yeah.
My ears pricking up with a round table. A round table with your
she would. She's not that.
She'd be, yeah. Okay.
I'm the the show off. She's just like don't make me talk.
Right, we've got your name down. We've got Louise's.
I did want to ask a question though, very quickly, just moving on, and then I can go. So I seem to have booked on something for tomorrow as well. Is that the same thing, or is that something different?
No, you need to come tomorrow if you can spare the time. That's the introduction to the new management system. So that's going to be your new portal from the 1st of May for all of your
Okay.
submissions and task management, etc.
Right, so that's what the super user does.
Yeah.
I don't have to do
Yes.
anything. I just provided with the information. But what I do is submit the complaints for the
Yeah,
audit. So we'll
you
need to
will
know
use
about
the
that.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to basically replace the portal that you currently log into for all of your submissions and updates that you're adding to findings, all of that sort of thing, your building list. The new system will take over from the 1st of May. That's what tomorrow's session is.
Right, okay then. I shall see you all again tomorrow.
Thanks, Pippa. Nice to see
Thank
you.
All right, thanks very much.
Thanks,
Bye.
bye.
Okay.
But I'm going to go. That was really helpful. I'm really glad I stayed on for the last little bit and just asked
Yeah,
those bits.
thank
It
you for that.
did
No,
make a
it's-
difference.
These are the conversations we
Lou.
want to have, really, but people are always in a rush, aren't they? So it's absolutely fair enough.
Yeah, Bill. All right, well,
Right,
enjoy the rest of your
thank you.
day. Thank you. Speak
Bye.
soon. Bye.
Bye.
At York, I know we keep asking, but we're really struggling with the ratio mix. I did put it through, and I haven't seen the new code. It's based on the HMO. So I've been in this industry long enough, and we always used to work on 6 and below. So 6 would be 1 hob, 1 sink, and then anything above 6 would be more. And then I think I asked a question. It said about HMO licensing, but HMO licensing in York, and I'm not sure if it's national, is saying 5. And I think we're okay unless we refurbish. But I wondered how much the code can define that, because I'm going back years now, and I know it's difficult because we've all got different mixes. It's not like a PBSA with 1,000 beds all the same. But I am still struggling now with refurbishing, because a lot of it will mean I'll have to take bedrooms out to make it compliant, which is not really fair because I need the bedrooms to support the students.
Right, it keeps coming full circle. The feedback from the ministry and the co-governance is that you have to go on your own local authorities licensing. So I'm afraid it is whatever York says.
No, it's just interesting because potentially we're non-compliant in anything, especially when we refurbish, because 5. And I was wondering, because I always thought, as I say, HMO was 6, but it seems York have gone for 5. So there must be also with HMO then some local licensing.
Correct, and we're finding that there's quite a difference in different local authorities, which is why the code will not dictate. It has to be down to the local area.
Yeah, which I get, but you can imagine I've come from Sheffield where it was 6, and I'm in York and I'm thinking, what the heck's going on? So yeah, that's fine as long as
it's challenging. Yeah, but again, your compliance doesn't stop overnight. You can explain all that, can't you? You know, it's a new project. You've liaised with the authorities, blah blah. It doesn't make you immediately non-compliant as long as you can show that you're working towards.
Yeah, but but we're going to have to get HMO from York involved because when we're refurbishing it, I need them to, if they agree I can do 6, then I need them to sign that off as well. So I've got that compliance with the code. Because I think we were all agreed when I asked previously, we're okay until we refurbish, because what might have been suitable when it was built 15 years ago isn't necessarily suitable now.
Correct, yes.
But then equally, if York have changed the HMO down to 5, that means every cluster flat, potentially I've got to take a bedroom out or put an extra hob in.
Right. Yeah, so there's a cost, isn't there?
So there's a cost and there's a space element.
Yeah, of course.
Because then when you look at the HHSRH underneath it all as well, that also can confuse.
Yeah. Yes, because and I mean that your HMO license conditions for each LA obviously look at that, the housing regs, and combine that in. So it's really difficult, but we do just have to keep pushing people back to their own authority.
No, it's okay. It's just interesting. I didn't realise there was different HMOs and different authorities, but there appears there is.
It does vary considerably, because we had a query about 9 months ago with Plymouth. Actually, theirs was quite drastically different, which made us delve into it a bit deeper and bring the ministry in. But the bottom line is that we've had to say it's got to be the local authority of the institution.
Okay. And then the other one is I was privileged to be part of the 2004 writing of this code.
Yes.
Oh, really? Excellent.
And I'm still here. And I just want to say thank you for all the work of trying to get it where it needs to be now, because it's been really interesting over the last 20 odd years of seeing how it's materialized and developed. So I think it's a real good positive that you've got to this stage. And we always wondered when we talked about it, when it was the office of the Deputy Prime Minister at the time, how it would end up. So just as a plus point, thank you. And it's really nice to see how it's developed and where you're going. And interesting enough, some of the same questions are being brought up by new members as old members, but yeah, it's really important. So I just wanted to say, yeah, as one of those people that were there with Martin and myself and everything, talking about it, and Brian in 2004. It's lovely to see that you've got it so far.
Oh, thank you for that lovely
Thanks, Jane.
feedback. We'll definitely pass that on. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm showing my age. I don't look that old, but yeah.
I know
Yeah, no-
Trudy would have liked to see you, Jane, but unfortunately she's not here at the moment. We'll pass the message on though.
Yeah, because it was an interesting time because I was chair of ASDA at the time. ASDA and Cubo and that around the table. So yeah, it was good. But yeah, no, it's lovely to see it.
Did you say, Jane, did you say you were at Sheffield before?
Yes.
Which university or Hallam?
University. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was head of accommodation at Sheffield, then moved here 2 years ago. So I'm assistant
Okay.
director now. So supposedly looking at strategy, but gets involved with everything.
Yeah, it's like that.